That's our kind of our favorite scenario is our bus scenario. So what happens if you get hit by a bus? You're supposed to be taking care of everything and for your business. And what happens if you get hit by a bus tomorrow? And a lot of times the answer is, I don't know. I think the company would be screwed. Entity keeper is really the answer or the solution to that problem. So whenever you have your job is compliance, your job is managing your business data, and you go missing, you get hit by a bus, then what happens is nobody knows. And that's a real big problem because you don't know if where the documents are. If you got documents stored on your Google Drive, your personal computer, your Microsoft Office, if you've got multiple Excel sheets scattered across different computers, that's all a huge mess.
You're listening to the Real Estate Runway podcast powered by Quattro Capital, where we're all about alternative business and investment strategies to help you amplify life and maximize wealth. Here's your host, Tammy, the operational maestro.
Welcome back to another Real Estate Runway episode. I'm Tammy Sutton, your host today, and joining me is Mark Bradley, who serves as a relationship manager for Entity Keeper, a company that is empowering teams across the globe to simplify entity management, mitigate risk, and ensure ongoing compliance. And in the world of commercial real estate, entity management and compliance is about the least sexiest role there is, but without it, there are no deals, no profits, and no growth. So today's discussion is going to largely focus on the Corporate Transparency Act, a new law affecting just about every business in America. We'll chat about what it is, what it means for your business, and how to stay ahead of the curve when it comes to compliance. And as always, if you enjoy this episode today, please like, share, and pay it forward. So without further ado, Mark, welcome to the show. How's it going?
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Tammy. I am doing quite well. Honored to be on here and excited to talk with everybody.
Awesome. So, hey, to start us off today, walk me through the story of Mark. You and I are constantly on the phone, but we never really get to talk. So tell me the story of Mark and how you ended up being one of Entity Keeper's major assets.
Absolutely. So, great question. I was originally brought on to 30 Capital and Entity Keeper as a part of this group called Venture for America. Venture for America is a program that puts people who have recently graduated college with growing startups across the United States. Startups started off as my passion, and just helping businesses grow is really what I care about and is really what I love doing. Since then, I have honed my passions a little bit, and frankly, this compliance has become something that I care about hugely. It is so important, and more I'm realizing how much it means to businesses and just how vital it is that you got to have some kind of program, some kind of platform, some just services that is going to help your businesses stay in compliance. Since I've started working with Entity Keeper, we've grown a whole lot just in the last year or so. I think that's largely in part due to kind of the Corporate Transparency Act and just people realizing that there's a bigger and bigger need for platforms like this.
Well, I can tell you have saved our little, what's a couple of times with compliance. So one of the most important things in commercial real estate is the fact that you've got to remain compliant. But a lot of people are like, oh, I formed my entity. That's it. I did what I needed to do. But that's not true. You've got SEC compliance. You've got Secretary of State compliance. You've got lender compliance. So when you have as many deals as for, say, Quattro Capital, we have tons of entities. Balls can get dropped so easily. So what is it that Entity Keeper actually does? Explain to our listeners what y'all actually do to help us keep all that in order.
Yeah, so great question. And you're exactly right. Like, there are so many different things that you need to think about and take care of in terms of compliance. And so Entity Keeper as a whole, we are an entity management platform.
Mhm.
What this really means is we are serving as your single source of truth for all of your entity management needs. We're here to just kind of create strategic advantages, help you avoid any kind of costly mistakes, and just really streamline your back end office operations. So, the way we accomplish this is through our entity management platform. You
Mhm.
guys know this quite well, but
Yes.
through this platform, we have your single source of truth, and we provide all of these additional services. These services that we provide are generally all focused around compliance. So we can help you through when you're forming your entities, like you said. So from A to Z, it's going to be forming your entities, helping get a registered agent for those entities, filing annual reports for those entities, getting certificates of good standing, all of the above. It's really an ongoing thing that is always something that you need to stay on top of.
Yeah, because it's very easy to end up without a great registered agent. That is one thing we had found, snail mail, and then it
Yeah.
was getting held up at the registered agent, and we weren't getting notifications until
Mm-hmm.
we were already out of compliance. And
Till it's too
being
late.
in being in multifamily, if you're out of compliance with your entity, you're out of compliance with the lender, and that is something you've got to stay on top of. So the one thing I do love about your program is the notifications. And I have to say, you probably give me a little silver platter service, but the notifications that you can set up in there are incredibly helpful to
Mm-hmm. And
make
so
sure
that's
you're
like,
staying ahead of it.
and that's exactly right. So, um, entity keeper as a whole is that source of truth, and we additional part of that is the services, but the notifications are a huge part of it. It's funny that you mentioned that. A couple of weeks back, we had a client come on with us that was paying for another service that was essentially just our notification center, and what that means is our notification center basically tells you what's upcoming, who's handling it, when it's completed, when it needs to be due by, and all of that is really important stuff. So that's just an additional piece that we have on the platform. That's just that next extra step to
Yes.
making sure that everything's staying in compliance.
Yes, yes. So let's talk about that deal that you and I had here recently. To
Absolutely.
me, that's the story I use when I am talking to anybody about Entity Keeper. We had a property that we were refinancing, and we were literally at the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
And had we gone past the certain closing date, we were going to start accruing thousands and thousands of dollars a day. It was just a black hole on the other side. And we had figured out that our tenant in common, whose entity was actually the one that was not compliant, and the lender was not going to allow us to close. So I know the high anxiety I was having and the panic attack my team was having, but I knew immediately just to pick up the phone and call Mark. He will get this done. And I could not believe that you were able to pull this off. So walk us through what y'all did on that end with something that critical and that quickly.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, I mean, really, the fact of the matter is you can't be afraid to get in the weeds and just dive in to solve all the problems. That's really kind of our whole philosophy at 30 Capital and Entity Keeper is just get it done. The job isn't done until, or your job isn't done until the job is done. And so in that case, really what it is getting in contact with the Secretary of State or state controllers. And that is a whole process on its own that already you're getting into the weeds because you're spending almost an hour on hold or
Uh-huh.
going in between 3 or 4 different people. And what happens there is we just needed to get that entity back into compliance. And to do so, you have to get in contact with the state controllers. There's certain files that you need to get completed and then just submit those. And so that is, if you have it all in front of you, the steps are simple. But the fact is, most people don't have it all in front of them, and getting
No.
all of that information all together in one place is really where the rabbit hole comes in. And that's where we will come in and try and help do our best to make sure that you have everything you need to get that file done, get that entity back into good standing.
Well, the fact that y'all were able to do that in 24 hours, because typically it takes a good 7 to 10 business days for them to just receive your document. So the fact that, and we had to battle Atlantic traffic. I mean, the whole day was crazy. I
That's right.
remember
Atlanta
just thinking,
traffic, huh?
there's no way for me to get from Nashville area to Atlanta, and you had boots on the ground there, and then we dealt with Atlanta business hour traffic. You got there the next morning and literally walked it through. You guys saved the deal that day. Don't sell yourself short. You guys were the heroes that day.
Thank you. And
Oh,
really, it's through some pretty valuable partnerships that we have.
yeah.
We've partnered with Continental Corporate Services, and they are a fantastic business that we are lucky to get to work with. So what you're mentioning there with the Atlanta traffic is whenever you have that deal, it needs to be done by 5 o'clock. At 4 o'clock, they're in Atlanta. Look, we have some boots in the ground in Atlanta, just like you said, and it's a big problem. Getting to one end of the Atlanta to the
Right.
other in an hour is nearly impossible on a Thursday at 4 o'clock.
So all of this is great and organized. Life is moving along, but somehow I don't think folks think about what happens to your business if you're suddenly hit by a bus or a large meteor falling out of the sky.
Mm-hmm.
So literally, what does happen to entities once the owners pass if there's not more than one owner?
Yep. So that's our kind of our favorite scenario is our bus scenario. So what happens if you get hit by a bus? You're supposed to be taking care of everything and for your business. And what happens if you get hit by a bus tomorrow? And a lot of times the answer is, I don't know. I think the company would be screwed. And Entity Keeper is really the answer or the solution to that problem. So whenever you have your job is compliance, your job is managing your business data, and you go missing, you get hit by a bus, then what happens is nobody knows. And that's a real big problem because you don't know if where the documents are. If you got documents stored on your Google Drive, your personal computer, your Microsoft Office, if you've got multiple Excel sheets scattered across different computers, that's all a huge mess. And so with Entity Keeper, it's just having that one single platform where everybody in the business knows exactly where to go to. So it's also a really secure way of keeping everything stored. So instead of having Excel sheets that you need to send back and forth or classified documents that you're sharing, that's all a pretty insecure way of sharing those things, and it's liable for vulnerabilities. Entity Keeper is also really, really secure, and that's that solution is you're not having to share anything anymore. Everything's living on one platform, one place, and everybody has access to that.
That is good to know. That is good. So let's jump into what everybody's talking about these days, and that's the Corporate Transparency Act. So for those of you who might not have heard this yet, let's start with what the heck is this? What is this CTA that everybody's talking about?
So what is the Corporate Transparency Act, or the CTA? The CTA just went into effect in January of 2024. So this is a new law, but it is going to be affecting just about every business across the United States. What it really means is that all of these businesses now need to report beneficial owner information to the FinCEN. And right off the bat, you've probably already got some questions on that. So what is the FinCEN? What is a beneficial owner? What do I need to be reporting? So the FinCEN is the Treasury's new branch that is the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. And they are newly in charge of keeping track of all the CTA laws, all the reporting. What is a beneficial owner? A beneficial owner is going to be anybody that has one of two things: 25% control or 25% equity of an entity, or substantial control. And now substantial control, I know, is already kind of a fluid word. But really what it means is anybody that has the ability to make decisions within your business, that person has substantial control. And so again, the real purpose of the CTA going into effect is in the past, there's been money laundering, fraud across all these different businesses. And really, that's never going to be stopped. But this is an attempt from the Treasury to prevent that. That's money laundering and fraud. And by doing that, it's by knowing who are their owners, who control these businesses. That's their attempt to get a better grasp on that.
So the conversations lately is in March, that federal judge that ruled the CTA unconstitutional in Alabama. But I believe that was just for the National Small Business Association in Alabama. It's going to be very interesting to see how that climbs through the courts. You know, a lot of state levels have taken that transparency adoption anyway. So even if the courts push it back down to a state level, the feds are going to get what they want anyway, because they're just going to go to the state level and find it. Right?
That's exactly. Well, you know, it is going to be a really interesting ride to see where this goes from. This is something that we are in particular are paying very close attention to.
Yeah. Go ahead.
If I had to make a prediction, I would say that it's still going to be enacted, and we're still going to need to follow the Corporate Transparency Act laws. And that's America is actually one of the few countries that doesn't already have laws like this in place. All across the EU, this is and has been a law for the last 25 years. In South America, many countries follow this, and Australia as well, UK. So America is just kind of just now catching up to the rest, and I think it's probably going to go through.
So I did not know that about EU. I did know that we were one of the last ones to do that. So you're saying that we should most definitely still comply, because I believe, you know, if you don't comply, the fines can be pretty hefty.
Oh yeah,
I understand that. Yes, and so go ahead.
Yeah. So what the FinCEN has said about those fines is, and it seems kind of crazy right now, but we'll see how it comes into effect in 2025, whenever that's the deadline. So what they've said is, for every entity that you do not file for by the deadline, and that deadline is January 1st, 2025, it's going to be $100 per day per entity. And so you can see how exactly it's going to add up really, really quickly. So 10 days go by, and let's say you have a relatively small portfolio of 10 entities. I mean, that's going to be $10,000 right off the bat, which is just insane.
But it's quicker if you open up an entity in 2024. You only have, 60 or 90 days to.
So you have 90 days. Yeah. So
90 days.
There's a couple of, so right now, for any existing entities that were existing before 2024, you have a full year to file. That's from January 1st, 2024 to January 1st, 2025. Any newly created entities, so entities created this year, will need to be filing within 90 days. As soon as you do not begin filing within those 90 days, that's when those fines and penalties will start to be tacked on to you. And luckily, we haven't seen anybody that's been charged those just yet, not from our personal experience, but it's coming.
Yeah. So what service can y'all offer to help with the complexity of all this data requirements? Because I know now, if you move, you don't just change your address at the post office. You've got to inform FinCEN now. I understand that, right? And a lot of people are really frustrated, because now they're thinking, oh, Big Brother's watching even more now. But, you know, we got to do it.
I get that. And but the fact of the matter is, it's the law now. And and you're exactly right, that if you move, you got to report it. So this is where it starts to get really complex. We start really getting into the weeds. So let's say it's not just a one-time, you file, you get it done with. This is something that's going to be ongoing, and something you're going to need to keep track of anytime changes are made. So that's a part of the law as well. So anytime changes to your beneficial ownership information happen, you need to report that. So for example, if one of your beneficial owners moves, they get a new address, let's say they get a new ID, that needs to be reported. Let's say somebody gets married and changes their last name, that needs to be reported. If your business, exactly, and if your business changes offices, that needs to be reported. It's a lot.
That is a lot. That is a lot. And I know that you've got a superpower contributing to all of this success that you have with Entity Keeper and keeping all this in line. So exactly, tell us, what is your superpower?
I like to think my superpower is just a deep desire to learn. That is, and asking the right questions. Really, that is what it's come down to. We kind of make jokes is sometimes whenever I join a meeting, a lot of times I don't come with solutions. I'll just come with more questions, and everything just gets more complicated. But that's really it. It's asking the right questions and having that desire to learn. That's what I think my superpower is. And because if you can do that, then just more knowledge you have, the more power you have.
That's so true. But with every superpower, there's a kryptonite.
I think that's probably right. And I think that kryptonite is probably my coworkers getting annoyed with me asking questions.
Now that's hilarious. Oh, I love it. So where can our listeners reach you to learn more? Because I know that we've got some people out there probably going, ooh, I didn't think about that. I need to learn more.
Mm-hmm. So entitykeeper.com, this is just going to be our landing site, and we just kind of newly revamped it. This is where you're going to find all of the information about the Entity Keeper platform. We've got some kind of one-pagers on the Corporate Transparency Act, what we can do for you, what we can do in terms of general compliance, so what we can help you with annual reporting, notification centers, building org charts, all of that is included on entitykeeper.com.
Okay, great.
Another thing I'll kind of mention on that is with the Corporate Transparency Act, I may be biased, but Entity Keeper is the best solution for you. But the fact of the matter is, any kind of solution is important. If you don't already have some kind of platform or some kind of service that is keeping track of your entity data, you need to get on top of it now, because Excel sheets are just not going to cut it, especially with this new Corporate Transparency Act.
Yes, I would 100% agree with that. So, hey, as philanthropy is one of our core values at Quattro, what would you like to share with our listeners that's important to you?
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great question. So at 30 Capital, we do a lot of our philanthropy aspects are largely focused on community engagement, so and social responsibility. So what we've done in the past years, every year we volunteer quite a few times at an organization called DigiBridge. This is a organization that's focused around STEM and STEAM for children. So what all of our company employees have gone to support this organization. What we're doing is we're building these kits, like electronic, everything has to do with STEM, STEAM, and engineering aspects. And it's a lot of fun, not just for us, but it's a lot of fun to interact with this company who's playing a large part in the community, and then also just the children as well. That's always huge to us.
That is absolutely amazing. As a former teacher, I love the idea of that concept. That is great. That is awesome.
I didn't know you were a teacher. That's great.
Yes, for 15 years, fifth and sixth grade. And, STEAM was really kicking in once I left. And those were my great days. Those were fun. Is there a parting gift that you would like to offer our listeners?
I would say, if in terms of Entity Keeper and Corporate Transparency Act, if anybody wants to contact us and you want to talk to us about this interview, we'd love to help you out, and we'd love to give you discounts or whatever we can offer. We also have a book that is written by our CEO. It's called Beyond the Building. It's a really great book focused on just creating alpha in the world of commercial real estate. You can go give that a book. It's a New York Times bestseller book, and great read. It's not too long, and it's pretty easy to handle.
I'll be adding that to my read list. Awesome. Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. I very much appreciate you coming and sharing all this great information with us.
It's been a pleasure and an honor. Thank you so much.
We hope this episode was insightful and brought value to your day. If so, please be awesome and leave us a 5-star review. Find out how Team Quattro can help you at thequattroway.com and scroll down for more info. Until next time, this is the Real Estate Runway Podcast.